Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening for a conversation with Missy Julian-Fox and Elaine O'Neill to celebrate the release of their new picture book, Violet Stands Tall. My name is Talia. I'm the events manager here at Flyleaf. We are winding down our event season this week prior to the holidays, but all of our fall events are available to watch on our Crowdcast. So if you'd like to go through our past events and watch any of those recordings, just click on our Flyleaf Books profile at the top of your screen. If you'd like to support the store and our guests, please keep in mind that Violet Stands Tall is available for pre-order from Flyleaf. And Missy and Elaine's previous books are not available on our website at the moment, but we do have them in stock. So you can order them over the phone, or you can come in and shop with us in person. We've extended our browsing hours, so those are now Tuesday through Saturday from 11 to 5. If you've already bought your copy, but you'd like to support the store, there is a donate option at the bottom of your screen. If you could send a few dollars our way, that helps us continue to offer programming. And we have a staff fundraiser at the moment. That's t-shirts and sweatshirts with our Flyleaf logo. Those make a great holiday gift. If you scroll up in the chat, I don't know which side of your screen it's on, you can find the link to purchase those as well. All right, I will go ahead and introduce our authors now. I know they're super excited. Okay, Missy Julian-Fox was a Title I reading teacher after completing her undergrad at UNC Chapel Hill and master's at Boston University. Missy grew up in her parents' clothing store, Julian's, on Franklin Street, and eventually took over the store. These experiences informed the creation of Violet's story. Missy remains committed to her work with children, education, and spreading the delight of her hometown, Chapel Hill. Elaine O'Neill, a textile collage artist, grew up on her family farm in rural Maine. Elaine learned to sew with her mother, a home ec teacher, and her grandmother, the daughter of a lighthouse keeper in Maine. Elaine attended college at the University of Wyoming and then later at the Philadelphia College of Textiles and Science. She lives in Hillsborough, North Carolina with her husband, Glenn, and their dog, Chico. All right, we are about to hear from Elaine and Missy about Violet Stands Tall. If you have any questions throughout the event, click the Ask a Question feature at the bottom of your screen and you can type those out, or you can put them in the chat on the side of your screen. And when Missy and Elaine are done with their presentation, I will pop back up and help moderate a Q&A. For now, I'm gonna hop out and give these two the floor. Please help us welcome Missy and Elaine.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Talia. This is so exciting. Certainly, this book would not be possible without the support of our family, our friends, and thank you all for joining us tonight. It really means everything to both Elaine and I. I wanted to start out, the dedication page is always very thoughtful, a conversation between us, and it's special for every book. This one I dedicated to my divine granddaughter, hi Marilyn, who is with us tonight.
And I'll just show this dedication page. If you can see it, I've dedicated this book to my two Graces. My mom, whom I adore, is named Grace, and her mother, my beloved grandmother, is also named Grace. So I dedicate this book to my two Graces. I love you, Mom.
Violet Stands Tall is, among other things, a tribute to small business, like our family's business, Julian's. And actually to all those entrepreneurs on every main street that are sharing their passion, their talents, helping people, serving people, following their dreams. And especially in these very trying times of COVID, we say, hold on to your vision and your dream and your passion.
That's right, and we'd especially like to thank Flyleaf Books tonight for hosting our super duper exciting grand book launch. Please support Flyleaf and your local independent bookstores. They need our business, and we're just so grateful to Flyleaf. Thank you. And
thank you.
Yeah. What is this book about? It's about Violet, who's a bunny entrepreneur who has worked so hard to open her store. And she has just about checked everything off on her list of to-dos when a trio of troublemakers come in and wreak havoc. And she's completely undone by this. This book is about how she overcomes that and focuses on her dream and pursues it forcefully and with grace and in her own unique way. Missy, why'd you write this book?
Because I want kids, and actually all of us, to really feel our own strength and power. That's what Violet demonstrates in this story. This story started taking shape when I was running our family business. It has been in the works for 17 years now. And I have to say, I came to know this trio of troublemakers, and all that they can say and try to derail you. They can make you feel small and inconsequential and helpless. They teaser. All those things happen to all of us. And sadly, but they do. And sometimes, truthfully, we even talk to our own self that way. And so I know these troublemakers, but I know Violet. And Violet is strong and tough, and she's learned techniques to get her to stand tall. And so I wrote this book because I want everyone to feel empowered and strong and able to stand tall, and by being themselves, exactly who they are. Elaine, we have talked so much about this, but tell everyone what it was like the first time you heard the story of these characters.
Well, as I remember it, you and I we'd been working with the Northside Elementary School in Carborough with the fourth graders. In fourth grade in North Carolina, the kids study the whole state, and each one of them researched a different part of the state using our book kind of as a prompt. So we were just overwhelmed and delighted with what they came up with. They wrote stories, they illustrated their stories, and we were flying high when we walked out the door that day. And you said to me, Elaine, I want to read to you my new, well, maybe not new, but my story that I've been working on. I think it might be our next book. We sat in my car for about an hour as you read it to me, and we talked about it, and I instantly felt a connection to it. I related to the characters, and mostly maybe I related to the fabric part of the story. Our fabric lives kind of jive. I learned to sew from my mom, and she learned to sew from her mom. And we spent many hours at the dining room table making our own clothes. And we had fabric closets, one under the stairs and one in the living room, and just lots of dreams were made there. And I know you grew up in a fashion haberdashery kind of store where fabrics of all types, swatch books, all those sort of things, you had that too. But we're not the only ones who relate that way. We all wear clothes. We've all worn handmade costumes. We all sleep under a quilt, or we have slept under quilts, and we have felt the difference between scratchy wool and silky, slinky, smooth silk and satin. And we know when clothes fit, feels good, and when they don't fit, how it doesn't feel good. And the texture of fabric is sort of the texture of my life and my story. And so I knew we were meant to make this book together when you read it to me that day. And that's how I felt about it. What's your message, Missy, of the book?
there are so many messages in this book, if you and I have discovered together. One of the crux of the book is in Violet's song, this snazzy, jazzy song. And this idea, as you say, of the fabrics and the thread that runs between, that our ambitions and our dreams and our ideas and our projects, what is the fuel for that? And of course, we believe that the fuel comes from a heart, but you can't just wish for something to happen. You have to use your head and your heart, weaving them together to really realize your dream on a path that I think it's important for you to choose that path for each of us. And then the other part of this story is that I don't own up to very often, but how, oh my gosh, I wanted you to like this story in the North Side parking lot so much. You are my illustrator, and I know that, and I knew it then. And so I really was trying to lure you, but it didn't take much, and I appreciate that. So Elaine, this book is different. It's had a whole lot of different challenges, I think, for both of us. But you're known for creating a place, like a snapshot. And this book was very different from what you were used to. So you have to share that with people.
Well, you're right. This is a character-driven story. It's action-packed on every single page. And I struggled with it, I must admit. It was a challenge for me, not only to show that action from leaping and jumping and, you know, kind of going through the emotions that Violet did, but then showing those emotions, showing what it looks like when you're frightened, when you're dismayed, when you're strong, when you are resolved, when you help somebody. What does that look like on both ends of either the helper or the helpee? And when a character is strong, are they hunched over and backing up? If a bunny is scared, what does she look like? So I did struggle with it a lot. But I think together, you know, we worked through the sketches and we figured things out. I hand dyed a lot of the fabrics. There's some light changes from shadows to the floors are flooded with light and there's a spotlight. And how do you do that in fabric? So the whole thing was a huge challenge for me. With an action-packed book, you want the pages to turn. You know, you get to the end of one page and you want the reader to quick turn to the next page. But my hope is that you will go back and look at the pages. I tried to use Violet's ears as a way to show emotion. So perhaps as you're reading the book, you might notice that sometimes she's holding her ears, sometimes her ears are down, sometimes her ears are long and draggy, sometimes they're not. So that was one method I used. There's so much texture in this book, in the words and in the illustrations, just like in life. And I hope that everybody really enjoys the pictures.
They're magical. It's wonderful.
Well, that's me as an artist and an illustrator. And I know, Missy, you're an educator through and through. And this is a third book that you and I have worked on together. What do you think it is that makes a good book? And have we succeeded with this one?
To answer the last question first, yes, in my humble opinion, for sure. But I am very critical And I think that where you and I always come together is in our standards, and our very high standards. But I want a story that makes me turn the page. You were talking about that. I want a story where I can see myself, or that a child can see themselves. I want a story that actually sparks conversation. I want one that inspires me or makes me laugh or teaches me, that is fun to read aloud. And so as a reading teacher, I'll go through a book and go, are these words, could kids sound these words out? Or is there new vocabulary that would actually be fun to learn and use? Can they participate? Can they follow along with it? If not, read it themselves. And of course, I want them to want to read it again and again and again. And I think that in our book, the way you have so masterfully matched the images with the words, it does all come together. It's beautiful. And my longstanding belief is that a beautiful children's book also is for grown-ups. We can enjoy them too. And I think that the fact is that there's, this is an allegorical story. You and I have talked about that quite a bit, that we relate as well, even though you might miss that if you weren't looking. And then the last part is that when I write, I literally imagine Marilyn under my arm, cuddled next to me. And that if this book could create an experience or inspire someone to share a story, whether it's your little one telling you one or you sharing your heart with them. I have gotten to see Marilyn looking through the pages before she even knew what the story was. And to your credit, and artistry, Elaine, she was pointing out all the hats and the t-shirts and all over the store, and actually had her own game going with that before we even got to read the story. So for me, to see a child engrossed in a book, especially one that I have written and that we have done, that is my dream come true. Completely. That's it. That's it.
Well, awesome. Do you want to read a little bit of this book? And I'll try and show the pictures while you read. It'll be a little tricky, but we'll do the best we can.
We'll do the best we can. So Violet Stands Tall.
Dedication.
Page with Elaine. Here we go. Sidewalks sparkle in the daybreak sun. Crimson, copper, and marigold leaves skip and scamper in the brisk fall breeze. The street and all the shops are silent and still, except one. Inside, Violet zigzags across the room, checking every final detail. Are shirts out of line? Are pants out of place? Is there dust in the corner of the cufflink case? Violet sweeps the spotless floor for the third time. What a lovely day for my grand opening, she exclaims as she dances and twirls among the rainbow of t-shirts in coral, apple green, teal, and lavender. She draws a long, deep breath, inhaling the aromas of leather and wool, a pinch of fresh cedar, and a dash of clean, pressed cotton. Her brow furrows. Dear me, what have I forgotten? Lights flicker, colors fade, bow ties unravel. Violet freezes. Her ears quiver. She starts to shake and shiver. The brightest t-shirts drop to the floor. The room turns dark. No, not you. All again? Violet ekes out. Old Buzzard slinks from the shadows. There's nothing in your head but fluff, he jeers. You filled this store with rags. You're a nincompoop, a knucklehead. Violet hangs her head and backs away. Walrus taunts. Honey, if I were you, I'd stay in my rabbit hole where it's safe and cozy, especially with those big ears of yours. Violet curls up into a small, tight ball. Peacock sashays in a circle around Violet. All eyes are on you, watching you fail. Peacock struts and erupts into loud giggles. Violet slowly unwinds and leans against the shelves. She grabs a sweater, buries her head, and moans, "Those bullies poke and choke and tug on me like clothes that don't fit." That's all I'm going to read for now.
Oh. I hope you got to see that. It's a little tricky doing it that way, but
yes,
it was the best we could do.
And so Elaine, they've seen some of it now, and I keep saying it's true that the illustrations are extraordinary. So will you walk everybody through how you do it? How does it get turned into a book?
Well, I have an original here. Oops. So yeah. And the originals are twice as big as the page. So you can see that there are some sequins on the peacock there as she's laughing and strutting around in her velvet shoes. This book, like I said before, was a challenge. And I did most of it during COVID, which of course was challenging. And as an independent business person myself, these have been super duper hard times for me as well. But because of COVID and because I found myself with all of this time and no other work to do, I didn't have an excuse to put Violet aside. So how it works is I start with a sketch. And again, going back to how hard it was for me to get under my belt how to show emotion and movement and characters. Violet's not the only character. There are others besides those that you saw so far. So I dyed fabric, I hand dyed, I hand painted, I used fabric from your haberdashery. Thank you, Bart, for saving all those swatch books for me. It was really super duper fun for me to include the woolens and the shirting fabrics and things from ties and trousers. And oh my gosh, I had cashmere and wool and cotton and silk and all incredible fabrics from Bart. So thank you. But beyond that, once I get my sketch, and you helped me with that, I sent all my sketches to you first. So it truly was a collaborative event or situation. The whole book's a situation. But from the sketch, then I choose my fabrics. I create a palette. So I went to the bins behind me. You can see I'm in my studio and I have this incredible colors and fabrics and textures behind me. So I pulled out the colors that I thought Violet should be. And you know, what is violet? I had to look that up. What's the Pantone color for violet? Well, it's anywhere from lavender to ultramarine. So I chose her and her little dress, and her ears are different colors from the rest of her, and her shoes are different. Once I had Violet down, I could kind of go from there. So once I created the textile collage, the real piece that I just showed you, then they each piece is professionally photographed, and I'm lucky that Jason Dowdle was around here in Snow Camp area here in North Carolina to professionally take my pictures. And then they're sent, we work with a fabulous book designers, Sarah and Stuart Sanders, who laid out the pages and the text, and they added some details with the shivering and the quivering, and really brought it to life. And then I guess the last step is our fabulous publisher, McDonald and Associates. Susan McDonald is a friend of ours, and she's published all our 3 books. And she kind of helped us through so many of those hurdles. So I hope I answered it. That's kind of how it happens. In here in my studio, you can see my fabric. My sewing machine is this way, and my ironing table's over there, and my design table, and my design wall. So I have a lot of parts that help me make this artwork come together.
And I would add that in this time of COVID, so for me, the writing was done. It was your turn. And so my family, we would take these long walks, and I would hear a ping on my phone, and it would be, wait, Elaine has a sketch for us. And we would be all over campus, different places, but it would be like, oh my gosh, we just can't believe this concept. And we watched it come to life, even on our walks. But it was just the best part of the day to see that. I think everyone can tell how excited we are about this book and how much we want everyone to be reading it and sharing it and cherishing it the way we do, and also the way you and I do cherish our friends and our family and all our hearts that are with us tonight. It's great.
I'm so glad you're here with us. And I guess, Talia, if there's any questions, now we're done with our conversations.
Thank you both so much. It's been such a pleasure to hear about this book, and I'm sure a bunch of people watching are going to be super excited to get a copy and finish reading it. I know we got a little preview, but there's more to come. So if you'd like to buy a copy, again, there's a link just below our faces. You can pre-order your copy. All right, so we will jump into some questions. First, I have a question from Margaret McGuinn, who says, what do you think is the optimal age range for this book?
It's like there are too many we can all answer. I'll answer as the educator, but we think it's probably about 4. It starts at 4 and then it goes on up. And it's been hard for us, and Elaine, you jump in too, but I think it's been hard for us to pick the age. We're working on a parent-teacher guide just because it would be so fun. And we're working with our friend Michelle Silva, who is a veteran classroom teacher for 5- and 6-year-olds, and also my own treasured daughter-in-law, Virginia, is an elementary school guidance counselor. And so we all think that it is a wonderful story for elementary school, but I also had my dear honorary grandchild who's in 7th grade. She read it and she was like, wow, this helps me remember, like I can be my own power. So that was amazing and fabulous. So did I answer the question?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those books that I think can probably be for all ages. People in different age groups enjoy it in different ways.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's one of those special picture books that isn't, you know, just for little kids. It can be enjoyed by everyone.
Okay.
All right. I have a question from actually several people who are wondering if they could get autographed copies. And I was wondering if y'all would be up for, once Flyleaf gets our copies, if y'all would be up for stopping by to sign all of our stock so that when we send out pre-orders, they will be signed.
Yeah.
Sounds like a yes.
Of course.
Okay, so that's a yes. If you order from Flyleaf, we will get your copy signed before it is either sent out to you or picked up. Does that help answer the question for folks? I hope it does. Okay. Let's see. I have a question here. I'm not sure who sent. Oh, Bronwyn said, "Can you already envision a next Violet story? Any plans for that in the works?"
I'm going to let Elaine take this.
Probably yes. Probably yes. But that's up to Missy. The words come first on this one, so.
I have to get Elaine signed on publicly. That was but yeah, I think there are other stories because, and Elaine knows this so well, both of us, a retail store, Talia, a retail store, as you have experienced, there are tons of stories, lessons, experiences.
Absolutely.
Characters.
Yes.
It is just brimming with stories. And now that it has gone from my head into, you know, we can see Violet back here. Yeah, I think there'll be more, but give us plenty of time. Plenty of time.
No rush. All right. I have a question here from Cecilia Moore, who asks, "Do you read parts of the book with children while you are writing it?"
Great question, Cecilia. And the answer is yes, with this kind of disclaimer to it. So as I said, this story was hatched a long time ago. And so once the book got published and we had an advance copy, I took it over to my son, Bart, and Virginia and Marilyn. And Virginia said, "Bart, don't you want to read your mom's story to Marilyn for the first time?" And he said, it's so true. The story I got was, I have memorized that book. I have had to sit and listen to that book for so long, in sometimes a tortured way and sometimes a great way. But my own children, my grandchildren, my honorary grandchildren, everyone has been a part of the reading of it to get the flow. But I do think that my experience as a reading teacher for elementary school kids has really helped inform the words and the action and how fast it needs to go. And I wanted it to flow, to roll off your tongue, and where kids have a place that they could participate or land. And so Elaine's work becomes, you know, the double super duper scoop of ice cream with the cherry and the whipped cream on top.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
All right. And now I have a question from Stephen Gwynn. Looks like Marianne's grandson, who asked, how long did it take you to make this book? And I think there are several parts you've kind of talked about, but overall, once there was a rough draft of the story, how long from then to publication would you say it took?
Okay, so I'm going to talk, and then Elaine, this one's really yours. But in terms of writing, so the story is in your head, you write it down. Really, Stephen, I think that there must be floating around. I actually have a mock-up book that I did a million years ago when I first started. And then I took writing lessons with my wonderful writing teacher is Susie Wilby. I know you're doing an event with her in a few days.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes the story comes like that and you can write it down and there's a few drafts, and sometimes there are thousands just for the words. So
Mm-hmm.
then Elaine.
Well, for my part, I guess from when I started to when I finished, it was about 5 months, 100% working on it. So it's long, it's a lot of work. So that's what I did all spring and summer, sketch and create the pieces and have them photographed. And it, I took 2 or 3 to the photographer at a time. And then we'd send them to the book designer, and then I would do the next 2 or 3. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a long time. But
Yes.
And then the book designers took about a month, I think. And then it takes a few months after that for the book to be published and printed and sent to us. So 7 or 8 months maybe for me until we have the book in our hand, and for you longer than that. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, book publishing is something that takes a while. Even once you have a finished book, there's a lot of steps, so it takes a bit of time. I have a question here from Daniel for Missy, which is, was there a particular part of the storyline that had you experiencing writer's block?
Oh boy. I could probably say every page at some point. Writer's block for me is very much, it's like Violet's journey through the book. You are like, I can't do this. I mean, whether the voices, as I said, sometimes these meanies, the trio actually lives in your head. And for me, that's writer's block. And so I have to do a whole bunch of things. It could be all different. There's a whole lot of techniques in the book that Violet uses. They didn't come from any other book. They come from experiences that we've both had, I think. And Elaine, you've got to tell a little bit more about the challenge that it was. I mean, the benefit of COVID is truly that you didn't call me crying and say, "Are you crazy? This is hard." So,
well, my husband heard me say it a few times. I can't do this. I can't sketch. I'm terrible at this. I'll never be able to do this. I'm the worst illustrator there ever was, and all those sort of things that you might imagine Violet saying. I said them to myself. And I kind of knew it wasn't true, but it was super duper. It was really, really hard. This was really hard for me. And, you know, I came out on the other side and I'm super duper proud of it too. So there's a bunch of super duper things going on, ups and downs in it, but it wasn't easy, but life isn't. And good stuff doesn't come from easy stuff. You know, I mean, there's always mountains to climb and failures and things like that until you get the gold. So I just have to remember that next time I find myself in a situation that I found myself in March and April and May and June, July.
Forget all that, Elaine. Just forget and look at the beautiful book. Oh, man.
All right. I have a question from Susie Wilde, your writing teacher, and a children's book reviewer who will actually be joining us for an event on Wednesday night to talk about her best or her top books of the year. That helps people buy Christmas presents typically or other holiday presents. She asks, do you think Violet can turn our country purple?
Oh, boy. What a great, see, that's why she's fun to be with. See, that's a wonderful, it's a wonderful thought. And, you know, Elaine and I, we've got these two other books. One, we put our heart on our sleeve about our town, and the next one, we expanded it to the state. This book, although we hope and think with Elaine's illustrations, those of us that know this town will feel, oh, I know that place, I know this street. So that it can give you some grounding and sense of place. But we think this story is universal and can really go all over. And wouldn't it just be great for all of us to turn purple together? That would be a wonderful thought.
Well, I have this little piece of paper in front of me that if you do a Google search for purple, it combines the calm stability of blue and the fierce energy of red. The color is often associated with power and ambition. Purple represents creativity, wisdom, dignity, grandeur, devotion, peace, pride, mystery, and magic. So I think we can turn the country purple. I think it's already purple. We just have to have purple rise to the surface. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, and I have a question from your granddaughter Marilyn, who wants to know, how old is Violet?
Oh, how old is Violet? Well, she's probably about the younger than Mom and Dad, much younger than Gran. Much younger, but older than you. She's older than 4. And I would say that Violet is a grown-up bunny, mature bunny. And her passion, what she loves purple. Marilyn loves purple, we know. Our family does too. And she loves fabrics, and she loves helping people. And she loves her friends. And I think that certainly sounds like somebody else we know who could be Marilyn. And it sounds like a lot of people that we know. So you'll have to tell me when we get together how old you think she is.
It's a good answer. All right. Emily asks, were the characters inspired by various real-life colleagues? I don't know if you can answer this one politically, but the question is out there.
No. It's a conglomeration of experiences and the way people treat each other. I think that for kids, what we want our kids and other people, we want them to be kind. And these troublemakers are not kind. And we run into that, whether it's on the playground or in the boardroom. We run into people that just aren't kind or understanding, and they want to stop things from happening instead of move them forward. And I think Violet's strength, which is what is so important to me, Violet's strength does come from within. I mean, she's learned that. Maybe we should, Elaine, maybe we should write the story of Violet before the store, when she is young and a little bunny, and how she found out that she loved clothes and her friends and helping people. But somewhere, Violet understands that you have to be true to yourself, and you have to know yourself and follow your own passions and your own heart. And it's going to take work. It just is. So none of the characters, I say, it's not at all autobiographical. Is that right? But it's a conglomeration of characters and people and experiences. But it was with Elaine, we would go to the Carolina Inn and sit in a booth for hours, and she would ask me questions. She would ask me about, what does this character look like? How did we pick the animals? And bring me books to look at. So you might want to talk about that, Elaine.
Yeah. I would just like to say that I think the characters that you saw, the trio, they represent peer pressure and sweet talking and name calling, those kind of things. And, that can be lots of people or lots of characters. So we've all experienced that. Yeah, we spent a lot of time at the Carolina Inn going over things, and it was kind of the last time we met at the Carolina Inn, sort of before things in March happened, where all these light bulbs went off. I went through the whole book with Missy about what action was taking place and what her trio of troublemakers might be wearing. What they represented. And, our sparks kind of flew that night. And we got to the point that we had a couple little things at the end that just couldn't put a tack in or nail down. One of them was a title. And one of them was, what is the main character's name? And that last night at the Carolina Inn, Missy was telling me, this is what it's about, this, and it's about that, and it's about this. And I said, it sounds like you're saying that this character stands tall. It's about standing tall. And you said, yes, that's exactly it. And then the name Violet came right after that. And we were like, whoa, we've got it. We've nailed it. Yeah.
We did. It was magical, but you see what often happens is that there's something in my head and we can talk about it and mull it over, and then Elaine will feed it back to me in Elaine's voice, and it's like, yes, you get this. So it really has been a wonderful collaboration.
I have a question here from Emily. She asks, are you available to do book readings for elementary school, especially since so many are still learning virtually? Is that something that you would be open to doing?
Elaine? Yes, yes.
That would be awesome.
Our experiences at Northside were just wonderful. It was with our other books, but I think this one really gives it's just a whole different level and experience. So we would love to do that, because there is nothing better than a book with kids for us. So that would be wonderful.
Yeah. So if there are any teachers listening who are interested in having Missy and Elaine come virtually visit your classrooms, make sure to get in touch.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're up for it.
Yeah.
All right. Marianne says, if I wanted to write a book, how would I start it?
Pen or pencil and paper. Truly. You just have to start at the beginning, and you start telling your story. And I think everybody works in a different way. I think that my daughter, Betsy, just actually sent to me an amazing little blurb from Glennon Doyle. And it was about, we all have stories to tell, but you really just have to you have to sit down in a chair and just start writing. That's not the magic. The magic is the act of doing it. And it may take a long time, and it obviously, in my case, it changed quite a bit. But we all have amazing stories inside, and they have to be shared. And what Glennon Doyle said was, what a vulnerable kind of experience it was to share your story, but it's absolutely critical and necessary. And I believe that, and that's why we are really here. We think it's important.
Yeah, Glennon Doyle's so awesome.
Yeah.
Her book was one of my favorites this year, her new one. All right, and let's do one more question I have from Ryan Thornburg. Does Elaine have any designs that she concepted for the book or conceived for the book, but y'all decided to scrap them instead of putting them in?
Great question.
Oh, that is a good question. I'm not sure that we did scrap anything 100%. I reworked some things. There were a couple of times where, well, there was a walrus. I struggled with the walrus. And I did that walrus 2 or 3 times.
Great.
And I didn't like the first couple I had. And the one that you saw tonight, where his backside is in there and he's just sort of being really, he's just being pretty obnoxious. When I got to that one, we kept that one. There were some other things, Missy. I think there were some times with the mirror.
Oh, right.
I struggled with the mirror, how to look in the mirror, and you look in one way, and coming out of the mirror is a more determined looking person than the one looking in. So yeah, do you think we had anything that completely got scrapped, Missy?
Wow, you're reminding me. But I wouldn't say as you do, not scrapped. Maybe I was thinking when you were talking about how you kept adding. Yeah, I mean, all your work that goes on in your head and in your heart until it comes out, we don't get to see that. So you edit yourself. I think that's what we both do, because we have different tools we have very different kinds of tools to work with, which makes the working together so fun, really fun.
All right. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight to celebrate this launch. We're so excited for you, and we're so excited to have a new book by both of you and on our shelves, along with your other 2 books, which have, been such great sellers for us and are so beloved by our community. If anyone interested hasn't yet purchased their copy of Violet Stands Tall, there's a link below to pre-order that. If you've already bought a copy but you want to support the store, you can donate a few dollars to Flyleaf. We always appreciate that. It helps us with programming. Again, we also have a fundraiser for staff that's t-shirts and sweatshirts. If you scroll all the way up to the top of the chat, there's a link to that. And last thing, I really encourage everybody to keep an eye out for our newsletter this week, because we are launching our holiday gift guide. We have recommendation lists from all the staff, all of our top picks of the year. So if you're shopping for holiday gifts, it's a good place to start. Again, we're open for browsing from 11 to 5, Tuesday through Saturday. We hope y'all can stop by and visit us soon. Thank you again to Missy and Elaine. Thanks to everyone watching.
Yes.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. It was awesome. Thank you, Talia.
Of course. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.